My parents kicked me out at 18, leaving me to survive on the streets with nothing. 10 years later, after losing everything in the 2020 bankruptcy, they broke into my house and tried to squat there while I was away. This is a long story, and I just need a place to vent. I don't want to reveal any details that could make me recognizable, especially to my parents in case they somehow come across this Reddit post. So please, don't ask for any details I haven't already provided. I'll be changing everyone's names in my family. I'm Lauren, now 30 years old, and I was never part of their plan. My mum, Ellen, and my dad, Richard, got married but never wanted kids. I was an unfortunate child, their big accident. We lived in Portland, Oregon, a drizzly hipster hell, where they ran their precious boutique furniture store. That place was their real child. I was just the inconvenient one they didn't know what to do with. Back when I was little, it wasn't all bad. I mean, I was cute, right? Chubby cheeks, pigtails, the whole deal. They'd parade me around the store sometimes, showing off to their snobby customers like I was a prop. But the second I hit like 8 or 9, when I stopped being adorable and started having opinions, they checked out. Mom was always in black turtlenecks, swirling Pinot Noir, bitching about basic people. Dad had his stupid goatee and this permanent sneer like he was above everyone. They'd spend hours at the store, obsessing over mid-century chairs or whatever, while I sat home alone with the TV. I'd watch reruns of Friends, pretending Ross and Rachel were my parents, because mine sure as hell weren't. My teachers at Franklin Elementary practically raised me. Mrs. Jensen even taught me how to braid my hair, because Mum couldn't be bothered. When I was little, everything seemed perfect. I was cute, chubby cheeks, braided hair, the whole package. Sometimes they'd parade me around their store, showing me off to their pretentious customers like I was some prized possession. But the second I turned 8 or 9, when I stopped being adorable and started having opinions, they checked out. Stopped caring. Mum always wore black turtlenecks, sipping Pinot Noir, complaining about mediocre people. Dad had this stupid goatee and a permanent smirk, like he was somehow above everyone else. They spent hours obsessing over mid-century chairs or whatever at the shop while I sat home alone with the TV. I'd rewatch Friends, pretending Ross and Rachel were my parents, because mine sure as hell weren't. My teachers at Franklin Elementary basically raised me. Miss Jensen even taught me how to braid my hair since my mom couldn't be bothered. Birthdays were a joke by the time I was a teenager. I'd wake up on my 13th, hoping for a cake or something, and Mum would just toss me a crumpled $50. Go buy whatever, Lauren, she'd say, already halfway out the door. Dad wouldn't even look up from his coffee. Christmas was worse. No lights, no presents, under a tree, nothing. When I was 10, I begged them for one of those fake trees from Target, the kind you can shove in a box after. Fine, Mum snapped, but you're setting it up. So I did, dragged it from the attic every December. Strung it with dollar store lights, just to feel something normal. I'd sit there alone, staring at it, wishing they'd walk in and care. They never did. I'd hear them laughing downstairs over wine like I wasn't even there. I tried to get close to them, figured if I could fit into their world, they'd see me. At 16, I screwed up my courage and asked to work at the store, maybe stock shelves, sweep floors, anything. I stood there in the showroom, heart pounding, and Mum just smirked, all fake sweet. No openings, sweetie, she said, like I was some stranger begging for a handout. Dad grunted, eyes glued to his inventory list. We've got it covered, he muttered. Covered? They had like 2 employees and I was their kid. I wanted to scream, what about me? Don't I matter? But I didn't. Just slunk back to my room, feeling like a ghost in my own house. That rejection stuck with me, this sharp little knife in my chest. I'd lie awake, rain tapping the window, thinking, they don't want me. They never did. School was my escape, Jefferson High, this big, noisy mess of a place. I'd throw myself into homework, art club, anything to stay out of that house. Friends like Mia kept me sane, but even they couldn't fill the hole. I'd see their mums hug them at pickup, hear their dads cheer at games, and it had hit me. I didn't have that. Never would. By senior year, I was counting down to graduation, dreaming of college. maybe art school. I'd doodle sketches of houses, warm ones with lights in the windows, not the cold, sterile box I lived in. I thought if I could just hang on, I'd get out, build something real. Then I turned 18, still mid-semester, and everything went to shit. It was February, rainy as hell, and they sat me down at the kitchen table, first time we'd eaten together in months. Mum folded her arms, all business. "You're an adult now, Lauren," she said, voice flat. "We expect you to move out soon." Dad nodded, sipping his espresso like it was a board meeting. I stared at them, my stomach dropping. "What? I'm still in school. I don't even have a real job." I'd been working weekends at this coffee shop, barely making rent money, and they knew it. "Figure it out," Dad said, shrugging. "You've got 30 days. They slid an eviction notice across the table, official, typed up, like I was a tenant, not their daughter. I sat there, tears burning my eyes, and they just got up and left. That was it, the start of the end. I didn't know then how much worse it'd get, but that moment, it carved a hole in me I still feel, this deep, aching hurt I couldn't shake. So that eviction notice wasn't just talk, they meant it, every cold word of it. I'd been staring at that damn paper for days after they slid it across the table, my hands shaking, trying to wrap my head around how my own parents could do this. I was still in senior year, juggling trig homework and coffee shop shifts, and they were ready to ditch me like some deadbeat renter. The clock started ticking, 30 days to figure out where the hell I was going, and I didn't have a clue. I'd stumble home from school, rain soaking my sneakers, and see them through the living room window, sipping wine, laughing like I wasn't about to be erased from their lives. I'd lock myself in my room, blasting music through my busted headphones, trying to drown out the panic clawing at my chest. How do you pack up 18 years when you don't even know where you're landing? I tried talking to them. God, I tried. One night, maybe a week in, I caught them in the kitchen. Mum slicing some fancy cheese, Dad scrolling his phone. "Can we just figure this out?" I said, my voice wobbly, hating how small I sounded. "I've got nowhere to go. I'm not ready." Mum didn't even turn around, just kept cutting, her knife clicking against the board. "You've had 18 years to get ready, Lauren," she said, cool as ice. Dad glanced up, his eyes flat. "You'll manage. Kids your age move out all the time." I wanted to scream, "I'm not kids your age. I'm your daughter." But the words stuck in my throat. I stood there, fists clenched, tears spilling over, and they just went back to their cheese and their phone like I was a ghost begging for scraps. That's when it hit me. They weren't going to budge. This wasn't a bluff. The 30 days flew by, a blur of desperation. I'd scraped together tips from the coffee shop, $5 here, $10 there, stuffing them in an old pencil case, hoping it would be enough for something, anything. Mia, my best friend, said I could crash at her place for a bit, but her mum was already stretched thin with 3 kids. I didn't want to be that girl, the pity case sleeping on their couch. I'd scroll apartment listings on my cracked phone screen at night, cheap studios downtown. But even the shittiest ones wanted first and last month's rent. Hundreds I didn't have. I'd whisper to myself, "You've got this," but it was a lie. I was drowning, and my parents were holding the life raft, just out of reach. Graduation came, May, grey and soggy, and I walked across that stage at Jefferson High, diploma in hand, forcing a smile for Mia's Polaroid. Inside I was a wreck. The clock was at 0, my 30 days were up. I got home, cap and gown still on, and found my stuff already packed, boxes stacked by the front door, my shitty mattress leaning against the wall. Mum was in her office typing away. Dad was on the porch, smoking a cigarette. "Time's up," he called through the screen, not even looking at me. I lost it, stormed inside, voice cracking. "You're seriously doing this now? I just graduated." Mum spun her chair around, all calm and bitchy. "We gave you a month, Lauren. Don't make a scene." A scene? They were kicking me out, and I was the drama? I begged, "One last pathetic shot. Please, just a few more weeks. I'll figure it out, I swear." I was on my knees, sobbing, grabbing at Mum's arm. She yanked it back like I was diseased, her face twisting. "Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself." Dad stomped in, grabbed my elbow, and hauled me up. "Out," he barked, shoving me toward the door. I tripped over a box, my sketchbook spilling across the floor. Doodles of houses I'd never live in. "You can't do this," I screamed, lungs burning. "I'm your kid." Mum's voice cut through, sharp and final. "Not anymore." Dad dragged me outside, dumped me on the wet grass, and slammed the door. I heard the lock click, loud, like a gunshot. And that was it. They were done. I sat there, rain pelting my face, graduation gown soaked, staring at the house I'd never call home again. My boxes got drenched, clothes, books, that stupid fake Christmas tree I'd hauled out every year. Neighbours peeked through curtains, probably whispering, but no one came out. I was alone, really alone, for the first time. I dug my phone out, hands shaking, and called Mia's dad. He had a truck, said he'd help. He showed up an hour later, this big guy with a beard, looking at me like I was some lost puppy. "Jesus, kid," he muttered, loading my stuff. I climbed into the cab, numb, watching my old life shrink in the side mirror. "Where to?" he asked. I didn't know, mumbled something about a storage unit. Truth was, I had jack shit. That night, I crashed at Mia's, curled up on her lumpy couch, her little brothers giggling in the next room. I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing Mum's sneer, Dad's shove, that locked door. I'd lost them. Not just the house, but any hope they'd ever give a damn. I hugged my knees, tears dripping onto Mia's old quilt, and felt this hole rip open inside me. Family's supposed to be your rock, right? Mine was quicksand, pulling me under. I had $200 in that pencil case, a diploma, and nowhere to go. Rain hammered the roof, and I whispered into the dark, "I'm fucked." It wasn't just about a place to sleep. It was knowing they'd cut me loose like I was nothing. I'd never felt so small, so lost, and the worst part? I still wanted them to come get me, even after all that. That night on Mia's couch stretched into a week, and I was a fucking mess. Curled up under that quilt, staring at the ceiling while her brother's laughter drilled into my skull. I'd left everything I owned in a storage unit off Hawthorne, this damp grey box that smelled like mildew, my whole life shoved into a 5x5 space. I'd lie there, replaying that locked door, Dad's shove, Mum's not anymore, and it hit me all over again. I had no family, no home, nothing. Mia tried cheering me up, dragging me to Powell's for coffee, but I'd just sit there, stirring my latte, feeling like a shell. Her dad kept saying, "You'll land on your feet," but I didn't believe him. I had $200 left, a diploma that felt useless, and this gnawing ache where my parents should have been. I was sinking, and I didn't know how to swim. Then Mrs. Carter stepped in, Mia's neighbour, this tiny lady with grey curls and a voice like warm honey. She'd seen me hauling trash bags out back one morning, my eyes all puffy, and cornered me by her porch. "Lauren, what the hell's going on?" she demanded, hands on her hips. I broke down right there, sobbing into her rose bushes, told her about the eviction, the rain-soaked boxes, how my parents didn't give a shit. She didn't say much, just pulled me inside, sat me at her kitchen table, and shoved a plate of mac and cheese under my nose. "You're not staying in a damn tent," she said, dialing her ancient rotary phone. I didn't know it then, but she was calling my parents, ripping into them like a hurricane. I heard her through the wall. "You've got a daughter, not a stray dog!" And my chest tightened. Someone cared, even if it wasn't them. She got their asses to cough up my grandparents' info. Grace and Henry, Dad's folks in Tampa, Florida. They'd been this blurry memory, a Christmas card with palm trees I'd gotten once when I was 6. Mrs. Carter handed me a crumpled paper with their number, her eyes fierce. "Call them, honey. You've got people." I didn't want to. Felt like begging again, like with Mum and Dad, but she stood over me, arms crossed, until I punched the digits in. Grandma picked up, her voice shaky and soft. "Lauren, is that really you?" I mumbled something dumb, like, "Yeah, it's me," and then it all spilled out, the eviction, the tent, how I was lost. She started crying, Grandpa yelling in the background, "Get her here, Grace." 2 days later, they wired me a plane ticket. Mrs. Carter drove me to PDX. "You're tougher than you think," she whispered. I boarded that flight, half dead inside, watching Portland fade below me. Tampa hit me like a furnace, humid, bright, nothing like Oregon's grey drip. Grandma and Grandpa met me at baggage claim, these wiry old folks with sunburned faces and teary eyes. Grandma grabbed me first, pulling me into this bone-crushing hug, sobbing. We didn't know, baby. We didn't know they'd do this. Grandpa just kept patting my shoulder, muttering son of a bitch about Dad. They took me to their little yellow house, peeling paint, a sagging porch, but it smelled like cinnamon and felt alive. I stood in their living room, staring at faded photos of me as a toddler on their mantel, and something cracked open. "You've got my eyes," Grandma said, brushing my hair back, and I lost it, cried like a kid, right there on their ugly plaid couch. They'd wanted me all along, and my parents had kept them away. Living with them was like waking up from a bad dream. But the shadows stuck around. They fed me Grandma's biscuits, Grandpa's burnt bacon, and set me up in their spare room, this tiny space with a creaky twin bed and a window overlooking a mango tree. They'd sit me down at night, asking about my life, actually listening. And it was so damn weird to matter to someone. Grandpa raged about my parents. They're selfish pricks, always were, and Grandma'd nod, saying they'd legally cut Dad out of their will years back. "He didn't deserve you," she'd whisper, squeezing my hand. I'd smile, soaking it in, but late at night I'd stare at that tree, the ache creeping back. I'd think about Mum's rare laugh, Dad fixing my bike once when I was 7, and it'd hurt, knowing they could have loved me but didn't. I started pulling myself together, had to. Grandma pushed me to enroll at Hillsborough Community College, some business admin program I didn't hate. I'd ride the bus downtown, backpack slung over my shoulder, feeling halfway human again. Grandpa knew a guy at a logistics company, hauled me in for an interview, and I landed a part-time gig shuffling paperwork. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I'd cash those checks, sock away every dime, dreaming of a place to call my own. The joy of it. Grandma's proud grin, Grandpa's atta-girl, mixed with this quiet sadness I couldn't shake. I'd sketch in my new notebook, little houses with lights on, but they'd always feel empty without the family I'd lost. A year in, Grandpa sat me down, his hands shaky on a stack of papers. "We're moving to Sarasota. Grandma's lungs can't take the damp anymore," he said. "But this house? It's yours if you want it." They offered it cheap. 1/3 its value, a deal I couldn't refuse. I signed the papers, heart pounding, and hugged them so hard I thought I'd break them. "You saved me," I choked out, and they just smiled like it was nothing. I stood on that porch after they left, keys in my hand, this weird mix of triumph and grief washing over me. I'd built something from nothing, but it didn't erase the whole, those years of being nobody to the people who made me. I was tougher now, yeah, but the scars, they'd stick around. Life in Tampa was finally mine. Those scars from Portland still ached, but I'd carved out something real after Grandpa and Grandma handed me the keys. I'd been at the logistics gig full-time for a couple years now, schlepping packages and paperwork, racking up overtime to pay off the house. It wasn't fancy. Cracked tile in the kitchen, a leaky faucet I kept meaning to fix. But it was mine, you know? I'd painted the walls this soft yellow, hung string lights on the porch, made it a home. Work had me on the road a lot, hauling ass across Florida for weeks at a time, but I'd come back to that little yellow house, kick off my boots, and feel like I'd won. No parents, no bullshit, just me standing tall. I'd even started sketching again, tacking drawings of flowers and sunsets to the fridge, little pieces of peace I'd fought for. Then 2020 rolled in, and those assholes crashed back into my life like a goddamn wrecking ball. It was late November. I'd been gone 3 weeks, some brutal run down to Miami and back, hauling freight in the sticky heat. I pulled into my driveway, exhausted, ready to crash, and there it was, this beat-up white van parked crooked, logo peeling off the side. Ellen and Richard's Modern Living. My parents' old store. My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. I grabbed my phone, fingers hovering over 911, but then the front door swung open and there they were. Mum in her stupid black scarf, Dad with his fake tan, grinning like we were best buds. "Hey, Laurie," Mum chirped, waving like nothing had happened. I lost my shit. Dropped my bag, stormed up the steps, voice shaking with rage. "What the fuck are you doing in my house? Get out now." They didn't flinch, just stood there, smug as hell, like I was the one out of line. Turns out 2020 had fucked them good. Their precious store went belly up, drowned in debt when the pandemic hit. They'd sold everything, the Portland house, their fancy cars, left with nothing but that van and some boxes of crap. So they tracked me down, God knows how, busted a window in my back door and moved in while I was gone. We didn't have anywhere else, Dad said, leaning against my counter, sipping coffee from my mug. This was your grandparents' place. We figured it's family. Family? I laughed, this bitter, jagged sound, and got in his face. You don't get to say that word, you prick. You threw me out, left me in the rain like trash, and now you think you can waltz in here? Mom rolled her eyes, all dramatic. Don't be so selfish, Lauren. We're your parents. Selfish? I wanted to smash that mug over her head. I tore through the house, my house, and it was a goddamn disaster. They'd shoved my couch against the wall, piled their junk everywhere, old lamps, stacks of their pretentious design magazines. My sketches were gone from the fridge, replaced with their grocery list. Wine, cheese, like they were on vacation. They'd even taken my bed. My bed, sprawled their shit across it like they owned me again. Get this crap out! I yelled, kicking a box, my voice cracking. Dad crossed his arms, smirking. Calm down. We've been here a month. It's ours too now. A month? Bullshit. They were lying, but they'd already changed their address, flashed some DMV printout at me like it was proof. I called the cops, pacing the porch, but those useless bastards showed up, shrugged, and said, looks like squatters' rights, file an eviction, family dispute. I stood there, rain starting to spit down, screaming inside. They're stealing my life again. Living with them was hell. 5 months of pure torture. They got jobs quick. Dad schlepping packages like me, Mom peddling clothes at some outlet mall. But they barely paid shit. They'd toss me a crumpled $100 every month for lights and water, acting like I should kiss their feet. You owe us, Mom snapped one night, swirling her cheap Merlot in my glass. 18 years we fed you. Least you can do is let us crash. I slammed my fist on the table, glass rattling. Fed me? You gave me $50 and a locked door, you bitch. I don't owe you jack. Dad lunged up, face red, but Mum grabbed his arm, hissing, not worth it. I glared back, heart pounding. This was my turf, and I wasn't backing down. They got bolder. Mum tried rearranging my living room, dragging my coffee table around like she was staging a showroom. It's better this way, she said, all superior. I shoved it back, snarling, touch my stuff again and I'll throw it, and you, out the window, she huffed, called me ungrateful, but I didn't care. Then she had the nerve to demand my bedroom. We're your parents, we deserve it. I laughed in her face, this wild, furious sound. You deserve a cardboard box, not my bed. Keep dreaming. Every night I'd lock my door, hearing them whisper out there, plotting like I was the enemy. I'd sit on my mattress, sketching angry lines, jagged trees, broken houses, fighting to hold onto what I'd built. I wasn't letting them win, not this time. I called Grandpa in Sarasota, voice shaking as I spilled it all, the break-in, the lies, how they were choking me out of my own life. Those sons of bitches, he growled, furious. Get 'em out, Lauren. We've got your back. Grandma got on, softer. You're stronger than them, baby. I filed for eviction the next day, standing in that courthouse line, palms sweaty, determined to rip them out of my world. They fought at spy more crap about family rights, but I didn't flinch. I'd clawed my way up from nothing, built this house with my own damn hands, and they weren't taking it. I'd stare at them across the kitchen, their smug faces, and think, you broke me once, not again. This was my line in the sand, and I'd die before they crossed it. Those 5 months after I filed the eviction were a goddamn war zone. I was stuck in that house with Mum and Dad, their smug asses acting like they'd already won. I'd come home from work, feet aching from hauling packages, and find them sprawled on my couch, watching cable they didn't pay for, sipping wine like they were lords of the manor. I'd filed the papers, stood in that sweaty Tampa courthouse, and the judge gave them 30 days to get the hell out. March 2nd was the deadline. I hung a cheap calendar on the fridge, marked it with a fat red X, counting down every damn day. They'd sneer at it, Mum muttering, so dramatic. But I didn't care. I was done playing nice. This was my house, my life, and I'd rip it back from them no matter how dirty it got. They fought it till the end, dragged me to court, spinning lies about some bullshit family claim since Grandpa and Grandma owned it first. Dad stood there in his wrinkled delivery uniform, hair thinning, trying to play the victim. "She's our daughter. She owes us this," he said, voice all whiny. Mum chimed in, dabbing fake tears with a tissue, claiming that $100 they tossed me was rent. I stood up, hands shaking but voice steady, and let them have it. They kicked me out at 18, left me homeless with nothing but a diploma and a locked door. I built this life, not them. They broke in, stole my keys, and now they're squatting like rats. I owe them jack shit. The judge barely blinked, ruled in my favor, no hesitation. 30 days, he barked, slamming the gavel. I walked out, head high, their glares burning holes in my back, but I didn't flinch. Victory tasted sharp, like blood and sweat mixed together. Those last 30 days were tense as hell. They'd stomp around, slamming cabinets, leaving dirty dishes in my sink like a big fuck you. Mum tried guilting me one night, cornering me in the hall. "We're your parents, how can you do this?" she whined, eyes all watery. I laughed, cold and hard. "You stopped being my parents when you threw me out. Don't pull that card now. You're just mad it's biting you in the ass." Dad got loud once, shouting about disrespect, but I shut him down fast. "Yell all you want. I'm not 18 anymore. You're gone in 2 weeks." They switched to silence after that, this icy standoff, but I kept that red marker moving. X after X, ticking down to freedom. March 2nd came and they dragged it out till the last damn minute. I'd warned them cops were on speed dial if they didn't budge. They scrambled, renting this shitty studio an hour away in St. Pete, some dive with stained walls and a buzzing fridge from what I heard. Mom called me over to see it, probably hoping I'd cave, but I didn't go near that trap. They packed their crap, those ugly lamps, their stained mattress, grumbling the whole time. "You're heartless," Dad spat as he hauled a box to the van. I smirked, leaning against the porch rail. Takes one to know one. They peeled out at dusk, tires squealing, and I stood there, watching that van disappear, feeling this rush, like I'd just punched through a wall. I changed the locks that night, hands steady on the screwdriver, the click of new dead bolts sounding like a promise. The house was mine again, quiet, messy, but mine. A week later, Grandpa called, voice gruff. Heard they're back on their feet, some inheritance from her dad, new store and all. I snorted, bitterness bubbling up, figures. They trashed my life, then bounced back like nothing. Grandma got on, softer. "You're better than them, Lauren, always were." She was right. I didn't need their game. They could play rich and snooty all they wanted. I was done letting it cut me. Now, I'm looking ahead, thinking about selling this place, moving south to Sarasota near Grandpa and Grandma. Work's got openings down there. I could start fresh, leave this mess behind. I'll deck out whatever new spot I get with cameras, locks tighter than Fort Knox. Those bastards won't ever catch me off guard again. I'm 30, scarred as hell, but I've got fight left. Maybe I'll date again, get a dog, build something that doesn't hurt to look at. They gave me nothing, left me to rot, but I made it anyway. They're dead to me, and I'm good with that. This life, it's mine, and I'm holding it with both hands, ready for whatever's next. If this story struck a chord with you, show your support with a like, and don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Story for more gripping tales of justice, betrayal, and redemption. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and share your own experiences. Every word you write helps build a strong, connected community where we can all share, heal, and empower one another. Stay tuned for even more intense, thought-provoking stories coming soon. We're here to bring you the best, packed with emotion, drama, and the sweet taste of karma. See you in the next one.